Okay, guys. So once again, Unocoin here is here with back with another session on an amazing topic. हाल में हमने वेब थ्री के ऊपर काफी चर्चा की है एंड उसी डिस्कशन को कंटिन्यू करते हुए आज हम बात करने वाले हैं हाउ इज वेब थ्री रीराइटिंग द रूल्स ऑफ फाइनेंस के बारे में विथ द वन एंड ओनली and a very famous personality at that and who has been in crypto space for very long, Priyanka Sharma, who is a committer at Shardeum. Shardeum, which we already know, is like a very prominent Web3 project that has, been getting a lot of attraction recently. So, how are you doing today, Priyanka?
Hey Shambhavi, thanks for inviting me. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm great, absolutely great. And honestly, आज का topic इतना interesting है. It's almost like exploring something new about something that we experience every day. So,
So true.
starting May, I always do this, and I'm very interested about this particular part that we do. I really want to know where did your entire journey start from in the crypto space? Where did you come in, and how did you start exploring this?
Um, so even though my crypto career started in 2018 with WazirX, but I think I got briefly introduced to Bitcoin and crypto sometime in 20, I don't know, it was late 2014 or 2015 when a colleague of mine forced me to get some BTC. And after that, of course, like during the 2017 bull run, everyone was raving about crypto. What is it? The bull market and everything else. And then I ended up working in this, started, working in the space in 2018. And yeah, after working there for like 4 odd years, when the opportunity presented itself, I joined Shardeum, which is an EVM based layer 1 blockchain. And we're working to solve the famous scalability trilemma as we know it. And yeah, it's been fantastic.
I mean, absolutely. तो ये बहुत ही एक dynamic चीज भी है and it's also very thrilling to be, one of the initial people in the whole system and getting to know even the minute details about it from the very beginning. So when we talk about finance and Web3, Priyanka, so how do you think that it is rewriting the rules of finance for the future generations?
See, the beautiful thing about Web3 is that it's, of course, built on the foundation of decentralization, right? Either you don't have like, it's not dependent on centralized institutions. Web3 is more decentralized, taking away the power and unnecessary involvement of intermediaries, thereby making the system more cost efficient and more open and more global as today's generation and future generations might need. So that's what it is, finance for the future. So that's powered by Web3, in my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we talk about future generations, of course, मतलब चीजें तो advanced होनी है उनके साथ.
True, true.
And I think Web3 is going to play a major role in that. The whole system, changing it from very top to bottom. So, Priyanka, when we talk about blockchain technology, we know that, we have been hearing about how our government is also planning to implement this for certain things and, how it is beneficial for several industries and at that. But when we talk about finance in particular, what kind of a role do you think blockchain plays in that?
Blockchain plays a very pivotal role in shaping the the like the finance system as we know it, and it's going to play a big role. I mean, by the definition of it only, blockchain, the fact that it's like an open and distributed ledger, right? You don't have to trust any centralized authority. You trust this. It's built on like a trustless system, right? You just go with what the code is saying. It's very like, it's all in the open. It's secure in nature, and using like, features like smart contracts and all. It helps you. It's like what self-executionary contracts, right? Again, you just trust the code. You don't have to trust the person you're dealing with or anything like this, which in a way eliminates the again traditional intermediaries, as we know. And most importantly, it's accessible for everyone, it's inclusive, and it shifts the power and control of finance and takes it from institutions to the to the hands of the people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to my next question, Priyanka. So, अभी जैसे कि आपने बताया कि how it brings the power to the people and not the authorities in the system. Why is it so important? I really want to know this for our audience because most of them must not be aware of this. मतलब इस चीज का क्या importance होता है कि power जो है finance के मामले में खास करके आपके हाथ में हो and you are not depending on certain authorities and people like that.
It's important because you have to be included, right? It's also about privilege, where you're coming from, etc., etc. Now, for example, folks who are unbanked or underbanked, um, they cannot participate. How do we make sure that those people also are not, they're not deprived of access to global markets or any asset investment or anything like that? How do you make sure? Because current system is a little skewed that way, right? You need to have certain things, but a lot of things we take for granted people may not have. Even something as basic as, let's say, having your regular credit history, or a lot of other traditional identities and all of that, which a lot of people may not be having. And because of these lack of, like, because of the lack of these things, infrastructure, you may call it, so people are, again, they cannot participate, they cannot go for things or a lot of offers or anything, like utilize these opportunities. So web3 is very inclusive that way, and it doesn't care. You are not a person. They don't look at your like geographical origin or anything like that. For you, for web3, you're just like a wallet address, right? And that way it's very unbiased system. And most importantly, even something as basic as your funds and all of that. Today, uh, sorry to say, but a bank can choose to freeze your funds anytime they want to, right? Without giving you any explanation. But in web3, you are in sole custody of your assets. I mean, not just your funds, but anything. You can you can use NFT to again tokenize some of your creations or anything like that, right? So I
Absolutely.
hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think NFTs are a very good way of maybe saving yourself from the whole copyright things or plagiarism part. And actually, if you look at it, the wider picture, it's very beautiful the way it solves each and every minute human problem that we have been seeing lately after the whole internet revolution. So of course, मतलब अगर हम वेब 3 और वेब 2 को कंपेयर करें तो ये एक बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग चीज होती है. So I have a question related to the banks that you mentioned, but I first just want to know how would you differentiate and would say कि Web3 is better than internet, or is there coexistence is what we are looking at in the next 10-20 years?
I'm a little confused. Do you mean, where do you see Web3 heading in the future? Is that what you?
So it's like a comparison of Web3 and Web2. Which one do you feel is great, and do are they going to coexist, or Web3 is going to take over Web2 completely?
See, I think everyone's building on top of the principles of their predecessor, right? We needed Web 1 to build Web 2, right? So it's looking at it like it's built on the principles of Web 1. Similarly, Web 3 is using the principles, the foundations laid by Web 1 and Web 2, and it's like a next generation of internet, right? So it's not like one is going to kill the other or overtake the other. It's more like how it's slowly evolving from what we knew and now creating new uncharted possibilities. and that's important, and as it should, right? I mean, tomorrow, there could be a web 4, and there could be more. Even today, like web 3 has a lot of problems, lot of shortcomings, which people are working to solve together, right? And tomorrow, again, more technological advancements are going to come, right, which are going to build on the principles of web 3. So I don't really necessarily think it has to overtake. It's more like it's evolving, and I think it's also getting smarter every, with every passing decade or every passing innovation. So I'm kind of excited about seeing what's the next big thing that's going to happen in Web3. But certainly they will continue to coexist and evolve at the same time.
I think absolutely. And if you also look at the growth perspective in terms of different sectors, I think there's a lot of possibility. So if you have to put it like that, आपको क्या लगता है कि किन sectors पे कितना मतलब just name top three sectors that you think are going to be highly benefited with the evolution of Web3.
See, finance is a no-brainer for sure. I'm also excited to see how uh, I mean, being professional, I definitely have a soft corner for content and content generation and content creation and everything. So I'm very curious to see how it's going to shape the marketing and the whole like content proprietary, like how it's going to shape that industry, the kind of social media, and which is actually, if you look at it, it's a need of the hour as well. This is one thing. And now with the whole, um, whether it's fractionalized real estate or something, these are also the sectors I'm kind of like curious to see how it's going to transform.
Absolutely. I think real estate and these asset classes are something that everyone's waiting to see. मतलब हाल में हमने देखा क्या मेटावर्स में लोग properties खरीद रहे हैं and they're
Yeah,
actually
true.
building homes over there and it's interesting to see क्योंकि yeah, what is it like a virtual thing and it's almost close to reality. So absolutely, it's pretty interesting to see what's coming ahead. One quick note for guys, if you have any question related to Web3 and how it's rewriting the rule of finance, and I think Web3 in general, whatever questions you have, I'm sure Priyanka will be very happy to answer them. So just shoot them down below in your comment section, whichever platform you're watching it from. So we'll be waiting for your questions. Moving forward, Priyanka, like you mentioned the whole banking part, and we have been witnessing this whole banking crisis from the US and how the whole thing has been changing the scenario for the public over there. So how do you think in future, like if we talk about Indian banking system or from a perspective of Indian person, how do you think is it going to affect India in particular, or maybe globally that could impact Indians?
Banking or overall
Banking
banking?
system overall, yeah.
Banking, I think off the bat, what I can think about is reducing the turnaround time. Honestly, the global remittance system is really, it's like anyone who has tried it, it's messy, and it's time consuming. It's also very expensive, right?
Yes.
So definitely having a global like a based infrastructure where people can, even the central banks of different countries, if they can, we can create an interoperable network where the transactions execute very smoothly and very quickly, and that's, we have already seen it's possible in blockchain. And interoperability is one big feature, and if that can be replicated in the traditional banking system, I think that's going to save like every customer around the world, anyone who's like trying to, even, let's say, something, do as something as basic as do like an e-commerce purchase from somewhere, in a foreign country or something. So it's going to save us a lot of time and a lot of reduce a lot of friction.
Absolutely, absolutely. And global scenario, mein toh I think that was the major point where you can just transact without having to worry much. With, of course, the whole system that has been created by Satoshi Nakamoto back in 2009. And I think that is
Also look at it this way, every country has its own requirements, right? If there was one single unified identity, like identity based thing, basically like these DID protocols and all we talk about, every bank around the world could use for a seamless KYC and onboarding and all of that, and one standardized thing which would save us again a lot of time, and um, and also help banks establish the veracity of a person, right?
yes, agreed. So, Priyanka, I really want to know what is your opinion on the whole banking crisis that has been happening? Because मैं बहुत सारे tweets देख रही हूँ. Each time there's something like that, people are like, "Oh, that is why you should trust in Web3. That is why you should trust in Bitcoin." And I just want to know your opinion on this.
It's sad to see what's happening, and I kind of agree that this is why we need a trustless system, and uh, like a infrastructure where which is more open, which is more transparent, where the community at the end of the day is not really fooled. So that's very important, and I also just hope that everyone, we just like it's a like a tough storm. I hope all of us kind of weather through it, and come out stronger.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's what we are hoping for as well. So there are a couple of questions. I don't know if we'll be comfortable answering this one, but I'm
Mhm.
just gonna ask. If not, we'll just Shivangi Upadhyay here is asking, where do I file my crypto tax? So do you have idea about this? Because
I I don't, but I'm aware of couple of folks who I mean couple of startups that are working on this. I think one recently I came across, I think tax notes.
yes, tax.
So yeah, they're helping with tax filing for crypto users, right? So maybe you can check that out. I've heard good things. I mean, they're all over my Twitter feed, and I also know, I think it's backed by Avinash Shekhar. So I mean, it's built by Avinash Shekhar. So definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely. Even Avinash was here last month for an AMA session on this.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so Shivangi, you can go and check out this particular AMA on crypto taxes from our YouTube channel. You'll find it, I'm sure. And still, if you have any question, I'll just ask our backend team to answer your question right here. Here is Yuko Tech asking, hello, why don't you publish trading offer at your platform? So, Yuko, I think you should just scan this Telegram group code where you actually get these expert, analyze stuff over there. So, you can get a good idea from there. So, maybe if that's what you are asking. If something else, just elaborate a little more on your question. Anyways, guys, if you have questions around Web3, just drop them down in the comment section and we'll see. जस्ट लेट्स सी कितना इंटरेस्टिंग है ये टॉपिक एंड आपके क्वेश्चंस कितने इंटरेस्टिंग हो सकते हैं. So, when we talk about the whole monetary system in Web3, Priyanka, तो obviously हम लोग को पता है कि Web3 as a whole से ज़्यादा लोग क्रिप्टो और related monetary system के बारे में aware हैं, मतलब at least by name. And जो tokenization का whole system है, that comes from the Web3. And of course, anyone can create any currency, and there are so many things, of course. So, how would you see this as a very good opportunity or a disadvantage? Ki, there can be so many tokens and they can be created and they can be dumped. And there's so many things. So, how do you see this?
See, I mean, there are multiple tokens exist, but the reason is because everything is solving its own use cases. Now take BTC and ETH for example, right? They both are solving very different use cases, right? And even though each token is serving as a backbone of its respective chain, right, to maintain the sanctity of the network. So it's kind of similar that way. It's also, let's not look at so many tokens are there, so what's happening, but let's also look at the use case of each token that's there and what kind of problem are. Let's be more focused on the use case of each token instead of just looking at the number of it. It's like there are various um, let's look at it like, there are various cars in the market, right? So now everything is solving a different problem, right? You need a sedan for something else. There's a sports, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not really familiar with the things, but some, there's a sports car for something, for like, um,
Yes,
rough travelers or
that's
whatever. Yeah.
for best
So
things.
everything is solving its own use case, right? And everything has its own speciality. Similarly, every chain, like, Bitcoin is popularly known as like a great store of value, right? Now there are privacy based coins which are serving a different use case altogether. Then you can now, interacting with dApps and all of that, you can do via ETH, right? So every crypto has its own thing, and more than focusing on the asset, if you are a potential crypto investor, then more than just focusing on the token price or the price movement, ideally, you should also look at the chain that's like, basically supporting it, and understand what problem it's trying to solve, the overall background, and then take a call. But and I think that's the way it should be, not looking at like the number of crypto, but also looking at the chains and the networks, what's happening in the background.
Absolutely, absolutely. And ये बहुत ही important चीज़ है whenever, because this happens quite often. We have seen this in the 2017 pump and dump situation. We've seen in 2020 pump and dump situations where there are just coins, and people have looked at them and they've just invested X amount of money, and then of course it was a rug pull or something like that. तो बहुत important है कि हम किसी भी token की utility देखें कि what kind of problem it's solving. Also, the dedication of the team and all those things also matter a lot, and that again is something to keep in mind. So, Priyanka, we have one question from Biswajit Day here. He's asking, how will Web3 help in changing lives in India? Very good question, actually.
Yeah. um Again, एक अभी, if you look at it, इंडिया में बहुत जन के पास आज भी बैंक अकाउंट नहीं है, एंड a lot of people, like, yeah, they're unbanked, and they, even in smallest of villages and towns, you don't see, um, I mean, financial institutions, but everyone today has a smartphone and internet, right? And if you look at it, that's what also, you know, Web3 needs, right? It's just purely internet based, and you're not dependent on banks or anything, and you can leverage Web3 to participate in anything. अब जैसे global economy है, you want to participate, you go ahead with it. You can participate, like, there is peer to peer decentralized lending and borrowing, you can do that. Now stable coins help you with, again, global payments and other dApps you might want to try, uske liye hai. So there are multiple use cases, right? Even today people are using various, they're creating crowdfunding platforms on top of blockchain, and you can participate in that, right? So there are actually a lot of things that's happening today, where you can use blockchain. So think of it this way, na, ki you don't need a middle party, you don't need to trust any person. It's safe, it's immutable, and anywhere you can implement it.
Absolutely, and more so, I feel like हमारे जैसी एक developing country हो या मतलब El Salvador, of course, it was in a very developing stage. So if we look at that scenario, we can see a great amount of advantage that it has actually grabbed only by adapting Bitcoin. And I think we can also see such changes when it comes to the rural development and other things, and it's actually going to have a very major impact. It just I think it's for the government to take the right initiatives at the right time, and maybe they're doing their job of researching and everything. But another thing which I want to know your opinion, which you can feel free to not answer, it's just a question out of sheer curiosity. हम लोग देख रहे हैं कि कैसे हाल में ये सारी चीजें आ रही हैं. Bitcoin has been known for anonymity. Web3 has been known for privacy protection and the entire thing where you can have the control of your finance. But recently we have been seeing कि rules आ रहे हैं जिसमें कि PMLA law के under now you have to do the KYC things. Besides, always there has been this new crypto tax regime, and there's so many things. So how do you look at it? मतलब जब ये Indian government ऐसी चीजें लेकर के आ रही है and being in this space for so long.
See, regulations are the need of the hour, and I think 2023 may we'll see more countries coming up with various forms of regulations, and it's also great time because regulatory clarity is the only way we can add a lot of legitimacy to this sector. Because
Right.
now let's also understand that it's a very nascent technology which is again evolving, like, at a super high magnitude every day, right? And it's also very difficult for, it's so new that it's also difficult for governments, for policymakers and everyone to to stay up to date with it. So it's very important for the industry stakeholders to work with the lawmakers of like global lawmakers and even these FATF and everyone, and make sure that we work in tandem and they are well informed, and we shape the regulations the best way so that we are prepared, and we eliminate all the bad actors from the ecosystem, but also not stifle any innovation that can happen with Web3. So I'm kind of excited about more countries, and especially India. So I'm kind of rooting for India to spearhead this whole regulation, Web3 and crypto regulation, and so that the world can watch and also learn from from India. And yeah, pretty bullish about it.
Yeah. And another question on the same topic, Priyanka. Now we see that after like 10 years of whole web 2 evolution, we see that now India has its own Silicon Valley, which we know as Bangalore, of course. And we see here there are so many tech firms, and mostly all the tech stuff happens over here. Now, do you think that India could also host maybe one of the major crypto valleys, something like that in India, maybe in future?
Definitely it can. And so many, if you look at uh, um, I mean, every day, like if you just look at overall activities and everything, so many amazing startups are being built out of India. And crypto startups, especially Web3 startups, and they have gained a lot of credibility, lot of attention from global audience. The world is watching uh, the crypto evolution in India very closely, and a lot of people want to be a part of it. And you'll also see a lot of folks. You look at VCs and everyone, they want to set up funds, which are India focused, which are, and it's popularly known as emerging markets today, right? Which shows that people are seeing India as the prime hotspot, and a country that probably can be um, a potential Web3 superpower. So I definitely see that happening.
आई मीन टोटली मतलब वैसे भी इनोवेटिव दिमाग जो होते हैं सबसे ज्यादा हम इंडिया में ही देखते हैं
True.
एंड वो भले ही यूएस इधर उधर जाते हैं बट देन ऑफ कोर्स गिवन द नेचर ऑफ दिस होल थिंग अब एक और चीज है जो बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है यहाँ पे हम इंडिया में देखते हैं फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी का लेवल काफी लो है और उसमें जब हम वेब थ्री एंड फाइनेंस की बात करते हैं सो व्हाट do you think it's going to solve the problem of financial literacy or maybe it just needs to be a more we need to spread more awareness around this. How do you see this?
There are multiple things that need to happen, and one of the things is definitely the overall more awareness, because even today, when you talk to a lot of people, um, they might just know, acha, there's a thing called Bitcoin, there's a thing called Ethereum and all of that, but they don't want to know much more about it. Then everything else kind of goes from above their heads, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay, because it's so new that we shouldn't even expect people to be super literate about it, right? Because honestly, even the traditional assets and traditional investing, that's also kind of like people are super new to it and unfamiliar with it. So definitely we need to together, all of us need to definitely work more on spreading awareness and education around it, not just crypto assets but also the technology and what are the various use cases and what kind of problems and how it can solve, and what are the sectors that can be revolutionized. Like people need to see more and more use cases, hear about use cases, hear them that they're being worked upon, and watch these use cases come to life and test out and all of that. So that's one thing. We need more people to build, create more awareness. And third is again regulation, because until there is regulation and proper you know affirmation given to the sector, people are not going to take it seriously. And if you don't take a sector seriously, you will not really bother educating yourself. Then again, tomorrow when another bull run comes and some tokens or anything, markets might get traction, people will go after it, but without being well informed. So we need to kind of start laying the groundwork before the next cycle, so that there are proper regulations in place to protect the consumers, and there is a lot of information gap that's already bridged by all of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. मतलब ये एक बहुत ही important factor है when it comes to crypto, especially we need to bridge this gap of education. And I think given that the financial literacy level itself is a lot lower than most major countries, I think it's gonna be a tough job. But yeah, I think we have a bright future ahead in this matter. सो प्रियंका, एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज होती है जब हम वेब3 की बात करते हैं फाइनेंस में, दैट इज स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स, जिसके बारे में भी ऑफन हियर दिस टर्म स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. सो आई रियली वांट टू नो व्हाट स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज एंड हाउ डज इट इम्पैक्ट द होल फाइनेंशियल सिस्टम.
Smart contract, it's a very beautiful thing, to be honest. So it's if you just um, interestingly, I was telling my sister about smart contracts this weekend, and I was just I told her a very lame thing, that smart contracts which are smart, right? Which are intelligent. So basically, but again, jokes aside, smart contracts are your it's these are like self-executing agreements between two parties, where the agreements, the preconditions are, and when the conditions are met, the contract executes, which means as a fund transfer or anything, that's automatically transferred. The transaction takes place once the predefined conditions are met, and no one party can cheat the other. The system is very unbiased and very um, very very automated that way, right? So rules are written, and you don't need any intermediary to decide who's right and who's wrong should there be a dispute tomorrow, because the code has seen and the code knows it. So it's very important to ensure that there is trust, there is transparency in the system, and it's very open, right? And it's actually very important for web3, because it I mean, not only does it remove the need and all, but it also automates the execution of financial agreements and all, right? So it's very quick, and everything is in the code, and that's amazing, right? And it's also very secure, without you don't need to trust the centralized authorities or any anyone. So yeah, overall, so yeah, that's pretty cool.
So I think if I have to put it simply, then it's more like कि आपके बड़े पापा आपके पापा की जमीन नहीं हड़प सकते हैं अगर आपके पास एक स्मार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है.
Yeah,
If
true.
you have to put it like that. So ये तो काफी एक अच्छी चीज है, इंटरेस्टिंग है. बट इसमें लूप होल भी तो हो सकते हैं ना. लाइक वी ऑलवेज सी दीज थिंग्स हैपनिंग विद कॉन्टैक्ट, एंड ऑफ कोर्स आई बिलीव द कंसेप्ट दैट यू हैव जस्ट एक्सप्लेन्ड इज going to replace the traditional contract system, because of course which I feel is very necessary. But of course there are going to be loopholes in this, like maybe certain codes might, because codes are what, binary, one or zero, that is what it's going to take. So if it is some other condition, so maybe there innovation around that, or is it just a rigid concept that you just explained?
um See, again, it's very nascent, right? And it'll keep evolving. There are loopholes, and definitely people keep discovering, as and when people discover these loopholes, find these issues and bugs, and they work on fixing it, right? So that's one thing, that as and when you find a problem, you work on finding its solution. Interestingly, if you look at it, this is where, like, AI, ML, I think these also play a big role in creating systems which are intelligent, which learn, and cover all these loopholes in smart contracts and make sure that everything is foolproof. So definitely, uh, working with other complementary technologies in tandem, that's a great thing. And I think people are already using all this, like, leveraging AI, leveraging um, this to make sure that everything, yeah, people cannot find and take, like, misuse these loopholes.
Absolutely. I think Web3 is actually going to impact a lot of things, one of which is just the contracting system, which I actually always wanted to understand the whole smart contract process, but I could never have this amount of clarity that you just gave me. So Yucotech here is having a problem with withdrawal in his account. Yucotech, you can just call our customer care number and they're going to help you with any issue that you're facing with your withdrawal and everything. So that's that, of course. And so, Priyanka, interesting thing that I wanted to ask here was, of course, जब हम ये contract system देखते हैं, we see a lot of contract stuff happening, around the government systems. So, do you think that it could replace those systems and maybe for good?
I'm not sure. I'll I mean, I don't know if it'll replace the system completely, but I'm definitely sure that, this is something that can be incorporated in the existing systems to make it better. And we need more, again, see, we need more testing, more pilots happening, right, on like a massive scale, to
Absolutely.
understand what's happening before we concretely say that, predict whether something can be done or not.
Absolutely, 100%. So, when we talk about Web3 in general, Priyanka, so how do you think that it is empowering the unbanked population?
It's it's you see, Web3, I think I've always again, it's beautiful that, anyone, I think, as I was explaining to the gentleman who asked this question about how it can impact Indians lives, that anyone today, with a smartphone and internet, uh, uh, they can access, Web3 can allow them to access financial services, or any, like, allow them to connect to like like a global web of financial system and like monetary system, right? And it's not just like, restricted to investments in global markets, but also, whether it's lending, loans, other, activities, and removes all kind of geographical barriers or any other barrier that might exist, right? And it's especially important today for developing countries, which don't have a lot of traditional banking and payment infrastructure. Web3 can definitely revolutionize the financial sectors in those countries, and kind of democratize financial access for people in these countries.
Absolutely. तो ये तो हम बात कर रहे हैं about the entire present system that's currently in existence. If we talk about the future, what are the prospects and what do we see for Web3, in terms of future growth, especially in the Indian land?
So many things, अभी तो I mean, okay, so let's see. Tokenization is one really big thing, right? We'll see people coming and tokenizing either their real estate or other, anything today, tomorrow can be tokenized, right? Like we are seeing people, so many crazy NFT use cases and people building in NFT, metaverse is coming in. So I'm definitely sure that, we can see more of these things come out of India. People are also, I think a lot of Indian projects are working on, infrastructure like blockchain infrastructure, identity protocols, and other things, to kind of enhance security in the sector. So I'm kind of curious to see how that pans out as well.
एब्सोल्युटली। तो ये एक बड़ा एक इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन है प्रियंका मेरे पास। जब हम वेब3 की बात करते हैं, ऑफ कोर्स वी टॉक अबाउट टेकिंग कंट्रोल इन योर ओन हैंड्स एंड डिचिंग द होल centralized part where a certain authority is in charge and everything like that. Now that we see that the governments are actually taking interest in this whole system, not just Indian government, but we have been hearing about Hong Kong, of course, US at that. So, what will be the extent of their, maybe interruption in this particular Web3 technology and growth? Like, till what extent they can control the whole system in here?
Web3, I don't think the intent of the government is to control the system, but it's more like to ensure that people are not taken advantage of, and the fact that bad actors, the nefarious activities, uh, they should be curbed to the minimum, right? That's the goal. And yeah, looking at it, looking from that lens, regulation is again very important. And I definitely see them controlling the entry and exit points of crypto, which is on ramp and off ramp. So definitely see that being regulated. And but again, I don't think that the intent of the government is to meddle, because a lot of solutions, even for cross-border payments and other insurance and so many other interesting traditional activities, companies and even governments are working with blockchain tech, right, to make the system more efficient. So I don't think the goal is to either stifle the industry or control, but more like to protect everyone from any kind of bad actors.
Absolutely. And I think they just want to have some consumer protection at that. But yeah, of course. Excuse me. So, Priyanka, next question that I have here is like, we talk about financial transparency when it comes to Web3. So, how do we see that, it's necessary and that, and then that how Web3 is helping promote that aspect?
Again, uh, the best thing is the blockchain layer itself, right? It's open, it's absolutely distributed, and it's pseudonymous, right? Uh, so that's amazing. You can see everything, on the, it's not gonna lie, everything can be verified. It's open. And that's very important for the system, because again, you one party cannot cheat the other. There is no intermediary that's unnecessarily involved or can be bribed. And so these are the things that are very important for transparency. And also ensure that people would make people have more faith and more trust in the system, that yeah, okay, I'm not being cheated. And that's very important. And web3 is making that possible. Web2, looking at it today, it's very opaque. So for example, even if you're, I'm again talking again and again about transfers, but that's the most common use case we can talk about, right? So today, if you're making a bank transfer from your bank A to bank, a lot of things in the back end for your funds to reach there, and you may not even know what's happening. And tomorrow something goes wrong. Honestly, all you can do is just have hope that bank A or B, whoever decides to take accountability, they help you out, right? But with Web3, it's very, like, very seamless, very one way, and everything is available. The transaction, the uh, all the entire process is up for you to see on the database itself. Like, go to Explorer, see the history of your transactions and everything else. So it's as open as it can be.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most beautiful features that came alongside blockchain, Bitcoin, and this entire technology. The whole system where the ledger is publicly visible. And I think that's where that is the major, I think, the advantage that we get by actually entering the Web3 space. So, Priyanka, if we talk about different sectors in our country, we see there are multiple sectors जिसमें बहुत ज़्यादा potential है. And how do you think is Web3 going to help them benefit from the this new whole technology?
See, okay, just curious, just to understand this better, do you mean what are more sectors that can benefit from Web3? Is that what you're
Yes,
asking?
yes. What are the potential sectors that can benefit from Web3?
Got it. So as we have discussed real estate, that's very important. Then we can, even in finance, there are multiple things, right? You talk about DeFi protocols, you talk about decentralized exchanges, DAOs and everything else, right? Um, Even you talk about uh, legal side of things, like, proprietary laws, or protect, like, copyright patents and all of that. These can be solved with proper tokenization and all of that. Then identity and again KYC, processes, how they can be solved, and we can have like a global uh, identity system which is kind of connected and helps users onboard to the system faster. That's very important. um, Socials and all of that we have already discussed. Supply chain is something that we are already seeing happening in front of us right now, that how blockchain has solved for it. Yeah. So these are things I can definitely see. I'm again, at the risk of sounding redundant, I'm also kind of see how, curious to see how the blend of AI with blockchain, how it is going to pan out.
Actually, yeah, even I was going to ask about this. So, one of our founders, Sunny, he's always too excited about when we talk about, AI and Bitcoin, and his notions are absolutely amazing when you talk to him and everything. So, I really want to know your opinion on, both of these things, maybe working together, maybe individually bringing some revolution to the whole industry. What do you think about AI's implementation into the whole Web3 system?
uh, AI, I mean, especially like, generative AI, it's anyway, getting a lot of hype and all of that, right? But also with the whole, if you also, but it's coming with its own set of problems, right? Whether you look at deep fakes and all of that, right? And eventually, the system, AI system learns from, uh, you know
This
how the data is fed in the system, right? So probably this is where, blockchain working in, like, again, it can, when integrated with generative AI, it can solve for a lot of problems. I think most important is, like, ensuring data integrity, which is very important, right? Blockchain can be used to train these train these generative AI models, and make sure that there is a proper, secure, and transparent ledger to record this training data, and ensure that there is proper accountability, everything is audited, which is currently not possible in AI, right? Then copyright the fact that blockchain is decentralized, it's immutable, so we can have like a, like a tamper proof data, tamper proof record key of ownership and all, which can be, again, uh, implemented in AI, right? Then even, transparency in governance, and digital rights and all of that. There's actually a lot of things. I started reading about it very recently, and I'm still reading and figuring it out, but I'm very fascinated that, with the possibilities, how, um, both these industries can work together.
Yeah, I think
And actually they complement each other, they need it. So AI, I mean, it's so smart, it's learning, but also there are so many because it's also new technology, right? And people are still finding ways to figure it out, right? Like how it's gonna work, to especially with regards to authenticity of things. And I think blockchain can play a big role here.
एब्सोल्युटली एंड मेरा जो सबसे ज्यादा वाइल्ड इमेजिनेशन है एआई और वेब3 के इंटीग्रेशन का वो ये है कि at a certain point it can actually analyze the whole algorithm and give us the price predictions that we, because of our human emotions and all of these things, cannot quite accurately predict. But AI, since it won't be having emotions and stuff like all human stuff that we have, it's gonna give us a lot of great predictions with this whole integration if it happens. So, but it's like a very far-fetched thing. Let's see if it comes to reality or not. So, with one last quick question, Priyanka, will end our session for today. Since you are a woman in crypto, and it's been a great topic of discussion lately. I've been seeing this everywhere. तो हमने देखा है कि फाइनेंस एक तरीके से एम्पावरमेंट होता है, बी दैट एनी जेंडर, इफ यू हैव मनी यू फील एम्पावर्ड, यू फील यू कैन टेक केयर ऑफ थिंग्स एंड you just feel empowered in different ways. So how do you think Web3, finance, all of these things are also working towards women empowerment a little?
Web3 is definitely more inclusive than and has more potential to higher potential to bridge this uh, gender gap in with regards to finance or anything. So see, most important is again, you don't need banks and other things, right? I mean, smartphone hai, you can get started with it also. I think most importantly, the industry itself is so new and so driven by community, right? So that's very important. And it also helps you learn. So because see, everyone's learning from each other. So if you're a woman in crypto or anyone new in the space, you go to meetups, participate in spaces, or discussions and all of that, you learn something new, because everyone is learning, expert, which you might see in a traditional setting and all, right? So that's very important, that everyone's learning and you can learn with each other, and there is more room to participate. So I would recommend that go out, participate. Even if you don't want to just start discussing, you're not comfortable yet, consume as much as you can. There are blogs, there are people are creating content in various languages also, whatever you go out and read, and then start participating and there are various bounty programs, you can start with that, right? For being developer or something, go for hackathons. If you for example, on Shardeum, we have the super Shardeum program, right, where you can contribute via creating content in your native, creating videos or anything, there's like a host of activities that you can do to participate in the network, right? So you can start doing all of these things, and and just explore you before committing full time.
एब्सोल्युटली एंड आई थिंक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है कि हम इस चीज को समझें. सो रिसेंटली आई वाज हैविंग दिस लिटिल डिस्कशन विद one of the people I know, and it was all about, oh, we thought Bitcoin is dead and the Web3 space is dead because of the whole bear run that's going right now. And surprisingly, he was astonished to see that, okay, there's someone they know and they're working in the space. So my suggestion to him was, okay, just go learn. And he was actually asking me for some financial advice, some trading tips, things like that. So I just told him, so please just go, watch things, read things, learn, because that is the most crucial aspect about any new technology that's in the space. So of course, guys, this is I think a very good message to end our AMA session on. whatever you are doing, if you are in this space, if you want to explore this, please do your own research and just learn as much as you possibly can in your free time about this. Because as one of our speakers said, Pranav, alpha lies in being early to the technology. So I totally agree with him on this.
That's true.
Yeah. So, guys, just go start with your own research. If you need resources, you always have Unocoin's YouTube channel, blogs, and everything. And we are always readily available at customer support if you want to know things like related to our platform and other things. Other than that, yeah, there are plenty of sources, I'm sure. Okay. So on this note, we'll be concluding our amazing AMA for today. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for joining in. It was really insightful, and of course, it was amazing for our audience. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in and asking so many questions. It was lovely having you all. See you in the next AMA. Thanks, Priyanka. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shambhavi. Bye.